Hi, everyone. This is Tracy Fenton, founder and CEO of World Blue. And it is so great to have you with us for this live webinar called Empower Your Team, 3 Proven Tactics for Peak Mental Well-Being. And I am so excited to talk today on this topic. It's something I've talked about from different angles over the years, but this whole idea of mental health and mental well-being has been a topic of great interest, growing interest for people all over the world. And as I looked further into it, it was so clear to me that World Blue has been for years working to address these very issues. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the insights, the proven tactics that we've used with leaders in over 100 countries worldwide, and sharing that with you today. All right, so let's get into it. So for those of you who may not know World Blue, I founded World Blue in 1997, yes, 27 years ago, and we are a top global leadership and culture training company. We teach CEOs and their teams how to build highly successful companies with our 3-step Freedom at Work method. World Blue has worked with clients in over 100 countries worldwide, and we have trained thousands and thousands of top leaders. And these are the tactics I'm going to be sharing with you today on peak mental well-being. So again, for those of you who may not know World Blue, we've been at this for almost 30 years. We've worked with top brands around the world like WD-40, Zappos, DaVita, Podio, Mindvalley, RevAsia, Groupon, Hulu, Achievers, Equal Exchange, Glassdoor. We've worked with all of them and helped them build really world-class leaders and cultures. We've earned quite a few awards for our work, including the Thinkers 50 Radar Award, which is the Oscars in leadership and management thinking. I've been recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the top 50 leadership innovators in the world. I've been recognized as a top 100 coach in the world, as a world-changing woman in conscious business, and we've been recognized for outstanding results in shaping the world with the Game Changer Award. So that's a little bit about World Blue. I just recently had my book come out, Freedom at Work. And if you'd like to know more about all the things I'm going to be talking about in this webinar, I really recommend that you grab the book. It's also an Audible. I did the actual Audible, which was really fun to do. And you can get Freedom at Work also now in Spanish and Hungarian for those of you who speak Hungarian. So really excited to have it coming out in various translations as well. All right, so let's get into it. What are we here to talk about today? We're talking about how to empower your team, 3 proven tactics for peak mental well-being. And as I said at the very top of the webinar, I know some of you are still coming in. I've never talked from this angle before about this in terms of mental well-being, but I haven't phrased it that way before. But the topic itself, I've been talking about for 27 years. And I'm really excited to present these ideas to you in a different way than we have before. And I think you're really going to get a lot out of these tactics. So what exactly is mental well-being? I mean, we have people talking all the time about mental health, mental well-being. What does that mean? We all can kind of get a sense of what does physical health mean, feeling healthy physically, what's emotional health, maybe what's spiritual health, but what is mental health? What is mental well-being? And there's quite a few definitions out there. I am not claiming to be a mental health expert. I'm a leadership expert. But according to Google AI, let me share with you how it is defined. Mental well-being is a state of being where a person can cope with life stresses, realize their abilities, and contribute to their community. And we're going to talk about 3 tactics for how to do that, how you can do it personally for those of you on the call, and for those of you who are also leaders of a team or a company, we're going to teach you tactics you can take right into your team. All right. So what is the first proven tactic for peak mental performance that, again, we're pulling from our decades and decades of experience working with leaders in over 100 countries worldwide. We've literally trained thousands of leaders in what I'm about to teach you. So proven tactic number 1 is having a freedom-centered versus a fear-based mindset. Now, for those of you who know World Blue, you know this is a thing that we hammer in every single day: freedom-centered versus fear-based mindset. I really believe at the root of every single problem we face is actually fear. So let's take a deeper look at that. Now, why does our mindset matter? Well, it matters because your mindset determines your behavior, and it determines the direction of your business, your team, and your life, right? When we don't have a positive, healthy mindset, that affects us in every area of life. But when we develop the mental discipline to have a healthy mindset, that totally changes our day. It changes our relationships and interactions with our children, our significant others, our colleagues, and it definitely changes the way we achieve our goals. So the problem is that most of us have a mindset of fear and we don't even realize it. Fear is at the root of almost every single, I would say, mental health problem, mental health condition. Now, I'm not talking about diagnosed things, but just people not feeling a sense of peace in their life. Now, let's take a look at the facts. Well, the average person thinks 60,000 thoughts a day. Let that sink in. 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts that we had the day before. And I don't know about you, but I know I've had my moments where I'll be ruminating on something and I'll think, I've been ruminating on this for days now. So I know for sure that 95% of thoughts can definitely be the same thoughts we had the day before. And here's where it gets scary. 80% of those thoughts that we have are usually negative and fear-based. So most of us are walking around with a mindset that is negative and fear-based. And those of you on the webinar may feel, well, that's not me. I've got this down. But think about the people you work with. Think about the people in your life and how can you help them? That's what we're going to get into. So what does fear look like? Fear looks like anxiety and stress. Those are words that we just hear so much in our world right now. Everyone is stressed out and everyone feels anxious. But at the core of that is actually fear. Fear looks like frustration with how things are going in our lives. It looks like anger. When people get angry, it's usually because they're afraid of something. In our organizations, it can look like unnecessary levels of hierarchy, command and control, dictatorial leadership. Procrastination can often be a form of fear. When we manipulate others, that's a form of fear. Bureaucracy that slows things down, it's a form of fear. Micromanagement, disengagement in our workplaces, short-term thinking. All of this has fear at the core of it. And the problem with fear is when we're in a mindset of fear, it kills good decision-making. It kills bottom line growth. It kills productivity and engagement. It kills innovation. It definitely hurts morale. It hurts us telling the truth and speaking the truth, particularly in our workplaces. Fear kills agility. Fear kills our overall well-being, and it certainly kills leadership development. So it's really important to recognize that fear isn't our friend. You often hear the phrase, oh, fear is my friend, or it's showing me the way to go. And I just don't agree with that way of thinking. I don't think fear is an effective motivator. I don't think fear is our friend. It's not a guide to our life, and it shouldn't manage our lives. I believe we are meant to overcome fear. And overcoming fear is not some giant Herculean effort. I'm picturing a person like going over a pole vaulting. Fear comes up every single day, small fears and big fears. And what we have to do is look those fears in the eye and overcome them. And I think, when I was doing research for this talk, when you go on YouTube and put in mental health or mental well-being, you'll see a lot of different talks about how to have healthier mental well-being. And the main things that I saw people talking about were physical exercise. So I think we all know how important that can be. I know I'm a better person after I've had a good run or a good bike ride or a yoga session or something. You hear a lot of people talking about breathing, so using breath, and you'll hear about eating good foods. So I think all those things are great, but I think the reason people are getting tripped up is they're not handling that root issue. And the root issue is being able to address the fear that's creating a lack of peace in our mindset. So, freedom, not fear, is what cultivates the optimal mental well being. When we have a freedom centered mindset, it creates the optimal conditions to act with courage and conviction, to stand in your inherent worth, to break through limitations, to make better decisions in every area of our life, and to ultimately live a life of positive, lasting impact. And isn't that what we all want? So, unhealthy ways that we handle fear can look like ignoring it. So, saying, I'm afraid, I'm just gonna, I feel anxious, I feel stressed out, I'm just gonna put it in a box and ignore it. It can look like reacting to it. We get afraid about something about our business, our team, our children, our life, and we react. We're afraid that if we don't handle a certain situation in a particular way, our kids might go down the wrong path, or if we don't address an issue faster, it might hurt the business. So often we react to the fear. Another unhealthy way we handle fear is we mask it. So we pretend, oh, I'm not really afraid, I'm stoic, or I'm a jokester, or yeah, I'm just going to bury it away. We also handle fear by trying to escape from it. And while that can give us short term gratification, it's not going to handle it in the long term. And another unhealthy way that people often handle fear is they try to just go at it alone. They soldier through, they go into the cave, they don't ask for help, they don't reach out to others. And it's really hard to coach yourself in life. You should always have a coach, someone there who's helping you. If you could coach yourself, you probably wouldn't be having that particular problem that you're having. So you don't want to go it alone. And the last unhealthy way to handle fear is drugging it. And I use the word drug in the biggest sense. It could be, I know if I feel stressed out and afraid, my favorite drug, quote unquote, is dark chocolate with sea salt, right? But of course, there's lots of other unhealthy ways that people use escapism and drugs and substance abuse to handle fear. And we just have to develop a deeper sense of self-awareness to understand that's not really handling the fear. You handle the fear by looking at it. And I'm going to give you a tool for how to do that in just a moment. So, Zig Ziglar, you may know him or may not. He is one of the top leadership thinkers in the world. I think he's passed on now, but he has two definitions of fear. He says fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. So I hope what we can do is face everything and rise. And hopefully my Australian Shepherd Great Pyrenees doggy, Sunny, will stop barking. I apologize for that. Okay, so how do we cultivate a mindset of freedom over fear, right? Like this sounds great, Tracy, but how do we actually get there? Well, you have to know how to handle the fear. So how do you handle the fear? Well, I want to teach you a 5-step practice we teach everyone called the power question practice. And some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you, this may be completely new. I've been teaching the power question practice for almost 20 years now. And literally every single day, it helps me. Every single day. I never tire of it. And the times when I get stuck in rumination or trying to figure out what's the next step, I come back to this. I've had the privilege of teaching this 5-step practice to leaders all over the world. Gary Ridge, the CEO of WD-40, tells me that he uses it every day and he uses it with his team. So this is a practice to handle fear that you can do individually and you can also use collectively with your team. And the quick backstory behind it is when I was in my 20s, I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. I now live in the West Palm Beach, Florida area. But I was living in Washington, D.C. I was a full-time graduate student. I had already launched my company, World Blue. I was traveling all over the world, speaking, building my company, and I was also working on the side for the NASDAQ stock market. Needless to say, I was a pretty stressed out 20-something. And so one day I called a spiritual mentor of mine and I just kind of barfed out all of my problems and stress to her. And she says, Tracy, I have just one question for you. And I said, what? I couldn't wait to hear what her question was. And she says, my one question for you is this: what would you do if you weren't afraid? How would you solve the problems if you weren't afraid? Well, I have to say, when she first asked me this, my first reaction was, I'm not afraid. And then I realized right after I was afraid. And I instantly saw all the things I needed to do differently. And I felt this giant weight just lift off of me. And it was a game changer. And so that question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? I started to teach the leaders and the CEOs we work with all over the world and would bring that into my coaching and help them break through fear. And eventually what I realized was some people got it with that question and some people needed a little bit more help. And so I took it and I shaped it into 5 questions that we call the power question practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to those 5 questions. But for the sake of the webinar and the time, we don't have time to deeply go into each one of them. I do other webinars on that and we do programs on that. But I at least want to introduce you to these 5 questions. And what you can do is think about a challenge that you may be facing. It may be personal or professional. And how can you apply these 5 questions to them? So the first question is, what are you afraid of? So when you look at your challenge, what exactly is it underneath it that you're afraid of? Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of other people's opinions? Are you afraid of it not working out? Are you afraid that you don't have the words to know what to say? So what you always want to start with any problem to help us shift from a mindset of fear to freedom is really getting clear on what you're afraid of. Because often what you're afraid of isn't what you think at first. You got to dig a little bit deeper into it. So the second question is, why are you afraid? Are you afraid because you're projecting into the future what may happen? Are you afraid because of something that's happened in the past that you're afraid might happen again? Why are you afraid? Are you looking at what's happened to others? So get really clear on why you're afraid. The next question is the power question, which is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? How would you solve that problem? What questions would you ask? What different steps would you take if you weren't afraid? The next question is, how would you feel without that fear? I always love when I get to this part of the power question practice because I know how I feel. I will feel liberated. I'll feel energized. I'll feel free. I often find if I'm dealing with a fear, a big fear, that no amount of coffee or caffeine or exercise will give me the kind of high that you get, the natural high you get when you break through fear. It is like all the fog goes away. People are talking about brain fog. I think brain fog has a lot to do with fear. So when we handle our fear, it is, to me, the best energizer out there. And the last question is, why is it okay to let the fear go? We always talk about let it go, right? The famous song in Frozen, Let It Go. But why is it okay to let the fear go? So you got to get really clear about that. For me, I'm a really spiritual person. I believe we can let it go or I believe I can let my fear go because I do trust the universe. I do believe that it's governed by love and I can trust that. But it's important to understand why you can let your fear go, not just having someone say, let it go. So what you want to do is work through those 5 questions of the power question practice. What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? What would you do if you weren't afraid? How would you feel without the fear? And why is it okay to let the fear go? This, to me, is such a powerful tactic for mental well being. It's what gets us out of the fear and the funk and gets us on the right track mentally. Let me give you an example of a CEO who did this. And this is one of the companies we work with in New Zealand. It's a small company. We work with small all the way up to major Fortune 500 companies. But this company is called Boost. And like I said, they're in New Zealand. They have about 20 people. And Nathan Donaldson, their CEO, had been through our training in the power question, which we call Fearless Mindset. and learned all about the power question and applied it to his life. And it was just game changing. But then he got tested. And the test was that at the beginning of the year, he could see that the company was not doing as well financially as they needed to. They were running short $200,000. So they needed $200,000 by April 1st, or they were going to have some significant problems. And the way he told me this story, and I talk about it in my book, Freedom at Work, is that when you're in fear, right, it's really easy to go into command and control mode. It happens to the best of us. But he kind of started to go there and go, okay, I'm just going to go in the office and I'm going to kick some butt and tell everybody, figure it out. We got to bring in 200 grand, like figure it out. And fortunately, he remembered the power question. He said, wait a second, I'm totally coming from fear with that approach. What would I do if I weren't afraid? How would I handle this if I weren't afraid? And he realized if he weren't afraid, what he would do is sit down with his executive leadership team, really open up about the problem, and ask them together to come up with a solution. So that's what he did. And everyone rallied together. He gave everyone a week to go off and come up with ideas for how they could figure out how to bring in that 200,000 that they needed. They came back with ideas. They implemented those ideas. And by April 1st, not only had they come up with that 200,000 they needed to fill the gap, they had made an additional $300,000. So, in the words of Nathan, the power question helped us achieve an outstanding result. That is not only the emotional and mental impact that we can have that brings us peace and allows us to see a broader range of possibilities for how to solve problems, but it also correlates to the bottom line. And that's why this is just so powerful. Well, if you want to learn more about the power question, we have a program we call the Fearless Mindset course, or the Fearless Mindset program. We run this program every quarter. It's public and open to anyone. And we also will do it privately for a company. So if you want this program just for your company, we can do that. But our open enrollment program, it starts July 1st. It runs until August 31st. So it's a two-month program. And there's a ton of information about it on our website. The deadline to register is June 15th. If you can't join this one, but you want to join a future one, please let us know. There's this sort of long email, or excuse me, long website address there, but you can also just go to worldblue.com. And my wonderful colleague Miranda is also on this webinar. She's one of our master coaches, and she's going to put the link to this program in chat. There's a lot more I could say about it, but the way we run all of our programs is we have online courses and everything is organized around badges. And we do some really unique things with that called peer assists and peer-to-peer learning. And then we also offer optional weekly group coaching where people can call in and get support in their development as a leader in this program. And people absolutely love that. You can hear how other people are working through challenges. It's very transformational. So we teach the power question practice, how to apply it to your life. And people have had so many breakthroughs. I wanted to pull up a couple examples. There's so many I wanted to share, but like I mentioned earlier, Gary Ridge, he's the former CEO of WD-40. He says, I love the power question practice in the Fearless Mindset program, and I use it nearly every day. So he runs a, company we helped take from 250 million to over 3 billion in market cap. Anne Brown, she's a franchise owner. She says the power question practice in the Fearless Mindset program helped me face fears and do something about them. As I face my fears, I can hopefully help my team face their fears, which will lead to extraordinary customer service. And this last one is from James Nicole. He's a product owner, and he said, I have applied the power question practice I learned in the Fearless Mindset program to several different scenarios and situations. And it has been amazing to see the results once fear is no longer a factor in my decision-making process. So when fear isn't a factor in our decision-making process, it truly transforms our lives. So that's tactic number one. And on this first tactic, mindset, is where I really wanted to spend the most amount of time. But now we're going to go into two other proven tactics that we know will help boost peak mental well-being. So the next one is, I strongly believe to have strong, great, healthy, peaceful mental well-being, you have to know your purpose and vision for your life. When you don't know your purpose and vision for your life, you are floundering through life. You're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you're wasting money, and we need you. The world needs you to be living your unique purpose and vision. And most people don't know what that is. And I think that contributes to not having peak mental well-being. You don't know why you're here, if you don't know what your unique niche is to fill, I think that eats away at most people. And I can say this because we have literally helped thousands of leaders around the world find their purpose and vision. And every time we do, every time my colleague Miranda and I coach someone, there is this incredible sense of peace that comes over a person once they know their purpose and vision for their life. Your purpose and vision for your life is not your job description. It's why you're here. It's your reason for being. I like to say it like this. Your purpose is your B. It's your reason for being. We all know Simon Sinek's work. It's your why. That's another way of saying it. Your mission in life is what you do, and that can change. That can change. But your purpose and vision don't. And your vision is what you want to have as a result of your being and your doing. So, how does this actually work? Well, ultimately, what you want to be able to do is write a one sentence purpose and vision statement that creates the riverbanks of your life. So, I think of purpose and vision as creating those riverbanks. The river that flows, that's the mission. Okay, that's what you're doing, and that can change. That's going to change through your life. But your purpose and vision are what guide your entire life. They help you make decisions. They help you know what friends to have, what relationships to be in. If you're an entrepreneur, maybe it aligns with your business. But they are there to guide you. And if you don't have those riverbanks, you have a flood. And unfortunately, that's what most people's lives look like. So, for example, my personal purpose statement is I am the pure light of love, inspiring us to live lives of freedom rather than fear. That's what I'm here to do. I get to express my purpose, of course, as the founder of World Blue, but I also express it as an aunt and as a community member or member of my church or as a daughter or as a volunteer. So there's lots of different ways I get to express my purpose. And what we want to do with our lives is align our activities, our relationships, everything as much as we can with our purpose. My vision for my life is to see a world where every single person can live, lead, and work in freedom rather than fear. And your vision might be something that you have no idea how it's going to be achieved. I have no idea if even in my lifetime, I'm going to see everybody working in freedom rather than fear. But that gets me excited. It gets me energized. And if you don't already have a really clear one sentence purpose and vision statement for your life, this is what you need to develop. It is a huge contributor to overall mental well being. And what happens is when you are focused on living your purpose and vision, you take your thought off of the self centeredness that we see that comes with a lack of mental well being, and it gets us focused on others. So, with your purpose and vision, you want to become totally consumed with living your purpose and vision, which should hopefully be in service to others. And when we're focused on serving others, gosh, it's really hard to be so self consumed. And we have just found again in working with leaders all over the world that this is such a powerful, powerful way to get people into peak mental performance. We also have a program on this. It's called our Fearless Purpose Program. And again, it runs on a quarterly basis. Our next one is starting July 1st. It's also a 2-month program. It's self-directed, self-guided, but we are there to help you once a week with live coaching in our group coaching that comes with it. The registration deadline is June 15th. This is also an open enrollment program, but if you want us to bring this program into your company, which we've had many companies do, we would love to do it. We've had a lot of CEOs say to us, well, we have a company purpose and vision, but our people don't know their purpose and vision. So we can come in and do this program in your company as well. And it is a game changer. And the thing you want to remember is what people want, particularly millennials, Gen Zers, and I don't even know all the generations that are happening, but they want a sense of meaning right now. They want a sense of stability. They want a sense of self-knowledge. And that is more important to them even than pay. So having these kinds of programs in your company is also really good for your competitive advantage and helping to attract and retain that top talent that you want to keep. So Miranda, again, is going to put in chat the link to our Fearless Purpose course. If you have any questions, we're certainly happy to answer them, but I would encourage you to take a look at the page we have on it. And let's hear from some of the people who've done the program. We've been teaching this program for a long time, and it's just had huge impacts on people. James, who's a global service consultant team lead, said, defining your purpose and vision for your life is both a relief and exciting. It is a relief. That's something we see with people. It's like, oh, this is what I'm here to do. Wow. I always say to everyone, when you find your purpose and vision, you should feel equal parts exhilarated and terrified. If you feel equally exhilarated and terrified, you have probably found your right purpose and vision for your life. So he says, defining your purpose and vision for your life is both a relief and exciting. I now set forward with a definite plan that offers me clarity and a reason for my everyday being. Mandy, who's the head of customer success management, says, there's power in knowing and being aware of your purpose statement each day. We can be so much more empowered in the workplace and in our personal lives with these statements. Knowing your purpose and vision is such a huge contributor to your mental well-being. And like I said, it's going to save you so much time, energy, agony. What am I here for? Why am I here? And Amo, who's a senior technical customer success manager, said, I learned a lot about myself in this program. Knowing my purpose and vision helps make me a lot more focused in life, giving me a deeper meaning that I should be shouted loud and clear in life. It's quite empowering. So you can really hear Amo's enthusiasm, which is what we see with everyone once they find their purpose and vision for their life. All right, so now let's go into our third proven tactic for how to develop peak mental well-being, either for yourself or for your team. And that third tactic is something that is near and dear to my heart, and it's developing high self-worth. High self-worth. What is self-worth? Self-worth is loving who we are. It's being friends with ourselves, and it's knowing our inherent value, our inherent worth. Self-worth is not self-confidence. Self-confidence is situational. So I may feel confident talking with you about the work that we do at World Blue, but I'm not confident flying a jet airplane because I don't know how to fly an airplane, right? So confidence is situational. Worth is knowing our inherent value. Self-worth is also different from self-development. People will sometimes say, well, I don't feel like I have high self-worth because I'm still developing or I'm still growing or I have this and that I have to figure out. Well, we are all forever, I think, growing and learning and developing. But that doesn't mean that you don't have self-worth. You're still developing, and that's fine. So one thing I want to point out is that an astonishing 80% of women and 73% of men don't believe that they are good enough, meaning they don't have high self-worth. 80% of women and 73% of men. And I can tell you many stories. I have a whole chapter in my book on this. This is the case as we work with CEOs and leaders and employees all over the world. I believe low self-worth is a global epidemic impacting our leadership effectiveness, our mental well-being, our health, our wealth, and the quality of our relationships at work and at home. So I want you to think about this key question that I love to ask people when I talk about self-worth, which is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how would you rate your level of self-worth and why? So I want you to think about this for a minute. On a 1 to 10, how would you rate your level of self-worth and why? Go with your gut. How much do you truly love who you are? How much are you friends with yourself? Again, I'm not talking about self-confidence. I'm not talking about self-development. But it's really knowing that you have inherent worth and inherent value. And when we know this, it's a huge contributor to the way we lead and the way we conduct our relationships with others. Most people, I think, struggle with self-worth. And if we can get this part right, I think it makes a huge contribution to our mental well-being. And I've seen that with the many, many, many thousands of leaders now we've worked with around the world for almost 30 years. So think about that number. What we have found at World Blue is 8 or higher is kind of the high self-worth zone. So 8 or higher. But the truth of the matter is that really, I believe every single one of us is a perfect 10 right now. We all are a 10 in inherent value and worth. And the more we see this and understand it, the more it really transforms our mental well-being and also our lives. There's a lot more I can say on this, and I'm actually going to be giving a webinar next Tuesday just on self-worth. People love it when I talk about this. Miranda, if you wouldn't mind grabbing the link to the webinar on self-worth, I'm having it next Tuesday. I'm going to go way deep into this, and I'm going to talk about tactics to help improve our self-worth. So Miranda will put that in chat if you want to join us on that webinar. If you can't join live, that's okay. Sign up for it. We'll make sure you get the replay. So where do we go with self-worth? Well, we have one other very important program called our Fearless Worth program. That's right, knowing that you have fearless worth. And if you can't really give yourself a 10, a solid 10 on that self-worth scale, this is the program for you. Our next program starts July 1st, open enrollment again. It's a little bit longer. It's a 12-week program. And the reason we do it for 12 weeks or for 3 months, again, it's self-directed, self-guided, on demand. But we want to give you the time and space to really grapple with these ideas. We have so many amazing exercises that are really life-changing for people. And the registration deadline is June 15th. If you have any questions, you can let us know. We're happy to answer them. But I really encourage you, if you're not that 10 in self-worth, this is a program for you. And again, we can run this also for an entire company. So let's look at what some people have said about it. Well, Gary Turner, who's an international product manager, said, before the program, I operated with such low self-worth. It was a revelation to learn that self-worth is innate, not out there. This transformed what I thought possible for myself. It's the most important development work of your life. And I happen to agree with that. Suzanne Yeager, who's an audit manager, said, self-worth is essential to leading a team and also yourself. That's why I encourage everyone, especially if your self-worth is low, to do this program and discover powerful insights about yourself and ways to grow. And Eloy, who's a team lead, said, I now have a strong sense of worthiness, and I finally feel good enough because of the program. It was a transformational experience for me. So these 3 programs, or let me sum it up, actually, these 3 tactics, and we have 3 programs for them, are really what we have found at World Blue are highly effective ways to develop peak mental well-being for you and for your team. And again, let's recap. Number 1, develop a freedom-centered rather than fear-based mindset. Number 2, know your purpose and vision for your life. And number 3, develop high self-worth. And as I said, we have 3 programs in this. They're very transformational. We love doing them. We love working with individuals around the world. And we do work with individuals around the world. So if you feel like, well, I'm not really good at English, can I do this? Yes, you can. If you can understand what I'm saying, you can do this. And we do offer an open enrollment, and we can also bring these programs into your company privately for your company, and would love to do so. So thank you for being with me. Again, I'm Tracy Fenton, founder and CEO of World Blue. If you'd like to contact me, please do. Here's my personal email. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. Here's my WhatsApp number. And of course, you can find everything we've been talking about at worldblue.com. And I also have chapters in my book, Freedom at Work, on these 3 things: fearless purpose, fearless mindset, and fearless worth. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. I'm now going to just open it up to any questions you may have. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in chat, and my wonderful colleague Miranda is going to come on and facilitate your question. So if you have any questions about mindset, about purpose, about self-worth, about the programs, about your team, or just a comment, happy to hear them.
Tracy, it's Miranda here. I have a question.
Yeah.
If you were to think about getting started on this journey, which course would you suggest people sign up for first?
Great question. They are all equally valuable. And I think it really comes down to where are you in the biggest pain point? So, is it in your mindset dealing with fear, stress, anxiety? Is it really wondering what is my purpose for my life? Or is it the self worth? They're all interrelated. I'd encourage you to do all three, but go with what is most painful for you right now, and let's stop the pain in that and get you on the right course. And then you can look at the other courses as well if you had to choose. You can do two or three at the same time. Like, it's not an overwhelming amount of work by any stretch of the imagination, but it is impactful.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question, lady. Any other questions popping up or comments
No,
or
we don't have anyone at the moment.
great, no problem. Well, it's been wonderful to see each of you here on the webinar with us. Appreciate you coming on. And if you don't know World Blue and you're meeting us for the first time, we're so happy to meet you as well. So we'll be sending out the replay of this wonderful webinar to you within the next 24 hours or so. So look for that coming in your email. You can certainly feel free to share it with others. So thanks again so much for being with us on how to develop that peak mental well-being for yourself and your team. Again, I'm Tracy Fenton, CEO of World Blue, and it's been a joy to be with you. Thanks so much, and bye for now.